Lord Krishna had many wives. Of the 8 Patranis, or the main queens, Satyabhama was the second. She was the beautiful daughter of Satyajit, the owner of the sacred Samyantaka jewel. She was haughty and proud of her royal lineage and good looks. She prided herself on her pure love for Krishna, and yet she was jealous of Rukmini, the goddess of wealth incarnate. In this story, we listen to how Lord Krishna gently but firmly restored Satyabhama to being the beautiful and humble lady that she was. Rukmini was the first queen, and yet she was very humble and a very pious wife. She let nothing come in the way of her devotion to Krishna. Lord Krishna is known to be the destroyer of his devotees' pride. One day, the mischievous Narad Rishi came to Dwarka to offer his salutations to Lord Krishna. In the courtyard, he met Satyabhama, beautifying herself with some flowers on her tresses for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. Narad walked up to her and with a voice of absolute innocence asked her, Rani Satyabhama, don't doubt my intentions, but is it my old age or is it really true that Krishna loves Rukmini more than you? Satyabhama was thoroughly shaken and stood still, gaping at Narad. You are far more beautiful and charming than her. Don't you think you deserve more attention? Prodded Narad. Pulling herself together, Satyabhama looked inquisitively at Narad. Tell me, divine Rishi, what should I do to gain Lord Krishna's undivided attention? You are my only hope now, she pleaded to him. Narad, ever eager to cause confusion, said, That is my whole point of visit, mother. I have a first-class plan, all hatched up to bring Krishna back to you. Satyabhama's eyes were twinkling, and now she listened to Narad with rapt attention. You will now make a vow that you will hand over Krishna to me as a slave. Then to keep the sanctity of the vow, but also to retain Krishna to yourself, I will allow you to trade him for an equivalent weight of your riches. Seeing that you are willing to trade your wealth for him, Krishna will admire you for your sacrifice and will keep you close to him. The only hitch is I do not know if your wealth will suffice to balance out Krishna's weight. Narad asked skeptically. Proud as ever, Satyabhama flared up. I am the daughter of Satyajit. My wealth is limitless. I am sure I have enough to balance Krishna. We will carry on with this plan of yours. And that was exactly what Narad wanted. Satyabhama rushed to Krishna and hurriedly told him about her vow to Narad. Krishna patiently listened to her and very meekly nodded his head. Satyabhama then commanded one of the servants to bring out the large scales used to weigh grains and groceries. She also sent for the caretaker of the coffers to bring out all her jewels and gold to the grand courtroom. And gently leading Krishna, she went to the courtroom. All the ministers stared at the scales that had been placed at the center of the court. Their mouth further fell when they saw box after box of gold being carried inside. Krishna was silent throughout the entire time. So great was the uproar of surprise at the court that Krishna's other queens too hurried from their antapuram to the main court. Amidst all the courtiers and with Krishna himself as a witness, Satyabhama gave away Krishna in dan to Narad. The other wives of Krishna were shocked at this, but being ever dutiful, they did not speak out in front of the assembled court. Narad then gave her the option of taking back Krishna, but by presenting him with an equivalent weight of riches. Amidst loud sighs of relief, Satyabhama agreed to it. She then placed Krishna on one plate of the scales and with a smirk on her face, started piling up the gold, jewels and the gemstones on the other plate. She kept adding more and more wealth, but the pan with Krishna did not even budge. To top it all, Narad kept giving her warnings. Remember, Devi, if you fail to supply me with sufficient wealth, Krishna will forever be a slave to me. I can even bid him out to anyone I want. Satyabhama, being very anxious, swallowed her pride and begged the other wives of Krishna to give her their jewels so they could retain Krishna. Out of devotion to their Lord, the wives removed every gold ornament on their body until they were wearing only the Mangalsutra. But the scale showed no sign of motion. Krishna, always the sly one, looked at Satyabhama and said, "Look, Satyabhama, because of your stupid vow, I have to now be a slave of Narad Rishi." He complained. Satyabhama was at a loss of words, but Krishna continued. "Why don't you ask Rukmini? She may be able to get us out of this predicament," he suggested coyly. Satyabhama was in such a state that all her ill will and jealousy towards Rukmini flew out of the window. She rushed towards Rukmini's private chambers and poured out the dire state of matters. Rukmini, ever calm, didn't panic and came along with Satyabhama. On the way, she passed the sacred Tulsi plant and plucking one single leaf of Tulsi, she continued on her way to the hall. She very quietly walked towards the balance and praying to Krishna, placed the single Tulsi leaf on the pile of wealth. Lo and behold, the pan containing Krishna almost flew up to the ceiling and remained unbalanced. Shocked at this, Satyabhama looked to Krishna for explanation. "Try removing your riches, Bhama," Krishna told her, all smiles. With a very skeptical expression on her face, she removed all her riches until nothing but the single Tulsi leaf sat on the pan. And yet, it weighed more than Krishna. She was stunned and humbled. Krishna jumped down from his high-hanging pan and came to her. "Satyabhama, you gave all your riches to me, but there was no devotion in that offering. Just the feeling of possessiveness. When you made your offerings with such a thought in your mind, they lost their value and became mundane things. On the other hand, Rukmini just offered a single Tulsi leaf, but her intentions were noble. She made the offering with utmost love and devotion towards me. And that single leaf was sufficient to please me beyond expectation. Remember, it is not the offering that matters, but the love and devotion with which you do it that does." Then, leaving Satyabhama standing stunned in the court, Krishna returned to his chambers with his other wives. Turning to Narad Rishi, her eyes now shining bright with tears, Satyabhama said, "Devarshi, thank you for teaching me this hard lesson today. I will never underestimate the power of devotion and love towards the Lord." Narad nodded, and with his characteristic singing of Narayan, Narayan, he was gone. And thus ends the Leela of Satyabhama's lesson and begins the new custom of offering Tulabharam to the Lord in his temples. But let us all remember, it is not so much as the value of the offering that matters, as the love with which you offer it to the God Almighty. After all, love is God.